Live from the Jersey Shore to the world. Get up, get out, do something. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Take the show wherever you go. Download the free Radio Pup app for your smartphone or tablet. Join the conversation. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Hey, welcome back. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. 7:07 Thursday, June 16th. 67 degrees. Not getting much higher than that because it's going to be rainy today. WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 News Talk Radio. Streaming live on the Radio Pup app and WOBMAM.com. 732-505-1160. We are joined in studio now by our financial guru, Sean Monahan. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
And Sean, first of all, let me just congratulate you because I heard, I didn't see because I was hacking away myself, that you were a beast at the Chamber of Commerce 9 and Dine on
third place finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I as I mentioned before, the Chamber must have a lot of poor golfers for us to be in the money there. But that was a fun outing. It's a great time. Nice, beautiful day, beautiful course.
I heard you were a ringer. I heard that we need to put a Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin team together, and I'll be fine. I could just drive the beer cart while you control the sticks. Yeah,
there you go.
All right. So Sean, we've had 5 straight days, unfortunately, of negativity on Wall Street.
Right.
And so people get concerned. Does it have to do with, England leaving the EU? Does it have to do with, with terrorism in Orlando? Does it have to do with interest rates and the Fed not raising interest rates? What could you tell us about external factors in the market?
Well, there's always going to be these ebbs and flows. And frankly, a week ago, we were hovering around all-time highs. So the fact that there was a pullback, it's not unusual at all, and I'm not worried about it. I wouldn't be worried about it. There's different schools of thoughts on long term what's going to happen with this. The England leaving the EU, Brexit they call it. June 23rd, the citizens there are going to have a vote. If you get online, you can read the articles, buy gold, get out of bonds, do this, do that. And the reality is the market does love stability. When there's these uncertainties about what would happen with the major economy in the world, that might have an impact. Certainly short term, it could have an impact.
Right.
I'm not that worried about it though. And then yesterday, the interest rate stayed the same. That was another. Yeah. There was the market was actually higher yesterday and pulled back towards the end of the day as that decision was announced. And again, the Federal Reserve there is in an interesting situation because ideally, what they want to have is higher interest rates so that they have more bullets next time there's a financial crisis in place. That's really their objective. They really feel that they can only raise the interest rates if the economy is strong enough to handle an increase in interest rates. And there's growth, but it's soft growth. Last week was a poor jobs report for the first time in a while, and so those things have them concerned about increasing these rates, and they're ultimately the rates need to go up to give us more bullets, give them more bullets. But the timing of that is anybody's guess.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, but I was thinking to myself the other day, why does the Fed need to raise interest rates? What's in it for them? And I guess I hadn't considered that it creates that cushion again so that if they need to, they can go back and use that. Right.
That's how that. I think the Federal Reserve, whether you agree with what they did or not, and the federal government took action in the crisis of 2008 and 2009, that probably staved off a depression. Right. They had mechanisms. Some of them were just created on the fly to put in place to spur spending. And that's how the Federal Reserve, when they can lower the interest rates, that in theory gets people to spend money. And that actually has worked since the recession, right? You keep interest rates low, people can buy houses, they can buy cars, they can buy refrigerators. Municipalities, I heard you mention it earlier this morning, can borrow money inexpensively. They should be, in theory, able to fix roads and do projects.
Right.
And that's worked. So when that happens, to spur the economy, you come out of a recession. People are concerned that the growth hasn't been strong enough and consistent enough. and we that's the concern, and they're in a rock and a hard place.
So I've tried to kind of explain this at times, and I'm sure I know for a fact you could do a better job than me. What kind of factors impact how the Federal Reserve's decision to raise or lower interest rates?
Well, I think it's funny because I think that it shouldn't be tied to the market, right? But I think that there is a concern in the winter. A lot of what you mentioned to me a few weeks ago on the was that the minutes when the market was coming down in February, beginning part of the year, they had a meeting and they decided not to raise rates, and the market, I think, had an undue impact. But what they're really looking for is strengthening, consistent growth in the job market. That's what they always point to. The job market is the one major factor. But I think there's concern if you read a lot of the articles about it that there's other factors that maybe shouldn't be part of their decision that is, and that could be the markets and so forth.
Right. And I know, we look at so many of the factors it seems like there are so many economic indicators that they look at that I just can't figure out how they ever make a decision. It seems like the ultimate in paralysis of analysis.
Right, because any day you can read a newspaper and think the sky is falling, the world's coming to an end, or you can think, hey, things are going, in such a great way that I can't wait for tomorrow. And they do the same thing. They look at statistics, and you can make a bear case or a bull case or an interest rate hike case or a decrease case with both examples. But at the end of the year, I think most investors expect interest rates to increase over the midterm, right? I don't know if that's this year or the beginning of next year. Nobody really does know. But I think that if you're looking at people's assets and how to help them and looking at the big picture, you have to say these things have to occur, and hopefully they occur for the right reasons, which is the strengthening of the economy.
Right. So with all these factors, this is a perfect segue, right? Because there's all these factors, there's all these different variables to look at that can make you go cross-eyed with very little effort. I think that kind of highlights why folks really need to have a financial advisor on some level. And I know you also have some things that you kind of wanted to highlight around the importance of a financial advisor.
Well, I think that it's interesting because a friend of mine, we're talking the other day, and he just we're talking about our businesses, and he said at the end of the day, why would people use an advisor, right? We've been in a situation here where the markets have been flat, and it's been very hard to outperform the markets, and in one sense, if you look at our job, you could say, well, could you do it yourself? A lot of people can make investments themselves. They can do their own research, and I use the example sometimes of, well, I can change my own oil in my car, but I'd rather pay $15 and have it done in 20 minutes and drink a cup of coffee while I'm doing it. But there is actually some research that supports the use of an advisor, and it's not in ways that you would normally think, right? So Vanguard had a report out where they basically put a number, and they said if you use an advisor, you're more likely to have a 3% better returns, or that adds 3% to your portfolio. But it's not 3% in returns. It's basically 3% over time for helping you. Like, for instance, they say being a behavioral coach adds 1.5 points, helping clients maintain a long-term perspective and disciplined approach, arguably the most important element of financial advice. Somehow the research came out to 1.5%. I don't know if that's right or not, but I do know that a lot of my job is helping people remove emotion from their decisions and compounding mistakes, right?
So it's interesting because we were talking before you came on. You were telling me about CrossFit.
Right.
And I was saying that I work out in my basement, and you said that you couldn't. You needed somewhere to go. You needed somewhere to. So there's a lot of the same elements, which are you don't necessarily need a personal trainer because you know how to work out. It's the difference between who's going to keep you on task.
Yeah, there's an accountability there. There's also a sounding board there, and yeah, that's right. It's behavior modification. Yeah, exactly.
It's somewhat to have a partner who's partnered with you on your plan, helps you make that plan and helps celebrate when you do great with that plan.
And there's a lot of research that supports that, whether it's fitness related or financial. Actually, I mean, fitness related, they say if you and I teamed up and said, listen, we're going to lose a certain amount of weight, we're more likely to accomplish that if we try to keep each other accountable.
Yeah.
Right. And,
so I'm just going to let you know, don't ever partner with me on that because I'm not keeping you accountable. I'm just going to eat.
Well, for example.
On that note, though, when we come back, we'll talk about this more. We certainly have some other issues to discuss and other important issues around the financial markets and around financial planning. If you have any questions for Sean Monahan, 732-505-1160. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. Back after this.
Stay tuned for Preferred Company with Joel Markell and Marianne Levy at 8. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin continues next. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
Hey, welcome back. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin here with our financial guru, Sean Monahan. So, Sean, you were talking about some other ways that financial planners kind of add value. So, what other notions do we have there?
I think that one of the and there's after this conversation, there's some research about this, right? It's not just me thinking I add value and feeling good about myself, but there's actually some numbers behind basically analyzing people's risk. In the same Vanguard study, they talk about asset location. So you put tax inefficient investments inside of tax efficient vehicles. That in and of itself, they put 0.75% annually on that for certain investors, right? So making sure that if you're intelligently using the vehicles available to you, whether it's Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, retirement plans, and the investments within inside those, municipal bonds versus taxable bonds, where you would use one or the other. So there's the asset location. The other one where we talk a lot about is asset allocation strategy, developing an asset allocation strategy with a rebalancing mechanism to it, right? So when things go up, you sell some of the winners, you buy some of the losers. So you maintain this, developing that and maintaining that, whether the market is going up or down, is one of the biggest factors in somebody's long-term returns. And there's a lot of research also that shows that's not what individual investors do. Individual investors over the long term, and institutional investors to some degree, follow what just did well, right? So if you look at mutual fund flows over decades, you can see that the flows go into things that have just done well. It doesn't have any predictability to what's going to happen next or what's best for the investor. And they quoted a study in 99, from 99 to 2000, stock mutual funds had $262 billion, while bond funds only saw $48 billion. You couldn't sell bonds in 2000. Nobody wanted bonds. Everybody wanted internet stocks. Everybody wanted the next best thing. And it was, if you drifted that direction, you got hit in the side of the head. And the same thing happened in 08 and 09 where the markets were going up in the middle 2000s. People felt very comfortable. They probably had too much risk in their portfolio. And then when the markets cratered, they had too much risk going in, and then they flipped, and then went ultra conservative and missed one of the best bull runs of a generation.
Right.
So that's what that's emotion, and what we try to do, and what advisors in general try to do, is help develop that strategy going in, regardless of what the markets are going to do, and try to help people keep emotion out of it.
Keep the emotion out of it, right? Emotional decisions lead to mistakes
in most areas in life, right?
Let me ask you this, because I think that there's a misconception, and I want to clear it up. Is there like an earnings amount, right? Like, is that the average family, let's say in Ocean County, makes $70,000, let's say. Okay. Is there a threshold for when they should have a financial advisor versus when there's no need? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a hard one to answer. And there's different advisors that specialize in different dynamic situations, right?
All right. Can I ask you? can you stay for one more segment?
Sure.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because we're actually up against a break, and so why don't we do that? So, Sean Monahan, our financial guru, Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. There's just so much going on right now. We need Sean to stay a little bit longer, okay? I'm sorry. I did it that way. There's no Kevin Williams this morning, so everything's thrown off. It's just craziness today. Don't call and ask where he is. He's fine. He's allowed to have a day off. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin back after this.
The news never stops at WOBMAM.com. Get the latest from WOBM News, the Town Square, New Jersey News Network, and Fox News Radio. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Live from the Bob Levy Broadcast Center, overlooking the Toms River. It's time to get up, get out, do something. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. Be a part of the show. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Hey, welcome back. 7:34, Thursday, June 16th, 67 degrees. That's about where it's going to stay today. A little rainy. WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. News Talk Radio, streaming live on the Radio Pop app and WOBMAM.com. 732-505-1160 to join the conversation with bonus time with Sean Monahan.
There you go.
With Sean Monahan this morning, because we have to know, Sean, when we left, I was asking you, what's the threshold? Like, where should people really start looking to partner with a financial advisor, or and separately, at what earnings level should you really be paying hyper focus attention on every dollar you're earning? That's a layup.
That's a all right. So let's take one at a time here. When should you work with an advisor, right? So my practice, we focus a lot on retirement planning, right? Or whether it's and most of my clients are sort of mid-career people where they've accumulated some assets, need to try to figure out how to better manage these, don't want to make a mistake that's going to delay them from retiring. So that's where a lot of my focus is. But I'm a big proponent of educated investors, right? I think that, statistically, Americans spend more time planning their vacations than they do planning their investments and their financial future. And I've mentioned it, and I talk about it all the time, but this country is undergoing a huge shift away from a pension-based system to a self-funded 401k-based retirement, right? So most people now in our generation are going to be responsible for their own financial success, as opposed to IBM, AT&T, and the pension. The days of just working someplace, punching the clock at 30 years, and collecting a pension are over. And people need to take some ownership of this. And so I would say the earlier the better. One thing that I do notice with people is that they get frustrated early and quickly. So if they don't get it, they just gloss over and stop looking at it.
Right.
We're really, I think that, like anything in life, it is a process. You have to, take bite-sized pieces. I have a book that I usually give out to folks that sort of frames this. Sometimes it generates more questions than answers. But there's all different, back to your question of when. I think I think that people need to do it on their own, whether you're working with an advisor or not. I think that there's advisors that I've seen out there for younger couples that are trying to prepare for college. That's their main focus, and that's a big question. How do you get the loans? If you save money for college, is that going to hurt you from getting grants and loans and so forth? And so there's folks that focus on younger couples, that sort of planning. My practice, we've talked about it a little bit before, disability insurance, life insurance, long-term care insurance, having those needs buttoned up. So I think there's always a need at some level to find the right person that maybe can help you out and try to bounce things off.
Great.
I don't know if that's...
Really good. So that's what I thought. And, I was kind of I said to you in the break, I said, it's amazing to me is, from a nonprofit standpoint, when I look at the Monmouth Ocean Food Bank, right, so which is the working poor, right, for the most part it's the working poor. And they have a section, they have a whole group devoted to helping folks with their taxes and helping folks with their finances, because really there are dollars that are out there that folks aren't taking proper advantage of, and so from a tax perspective, there's people don't file their taxes because they think they don't make a lot of money, and they don't want to end up having to pay because everybody assumes they're going to have to pay. And it really is a shame. I think that the level of there's some degree of ignorance out there around who needs to do what.
Right. And there are a lot of pro bono. I'm a member of the Financial Planning Association, the FPA. We do a lot of there's a lot of pro bono activity, particularly with the military families. Actually, that's another area where there's a whole unique set of needs with those folks that when they're deployed and they have another job and all these sorts of things. So. And taxes. I mean, taxes confuse people. That's another example. I mean, just people gloss over, right? I mean, once you get beyond the paycheck, people are like, well, I don't really understand any of it, so I'm just going to sit in my hands and not pay attention at all. Right. Where you should always try to learn a little bit,
Sean, where do folks go to contact you? How do they learn more? If they have now had their eyes open to the fact that they need to do a better job planning, where are they going?
You can call my office. Talk to Carolyn, 609-693-3800. My website is www. It's short for Financial Alternatives, so it's finalt.com. My email address is sean@finalt.com. And I would, if people have questions or concerns and want to there's no obligation. There's no if you want to call and you had a few questions, I'd be glad to try to help you out. If I can't help you, I'll point you in the right direction.
Awesome. Very good. As always, Sean, very educational. Yes. And you are a fountain of knowledge, aside from being a stellar golfer.
Yeah. Next time we'll talk about the impact of the elections on the markets and so forth.
It is that time, right? It is that time. The age-old debate: which candidate is better for my pocketbook? Sean Monahan, thank you again.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. Back after this.